I realize that a lot of people find the Friday the 13th films to be the most formulaic of the big three, but I feel that's simply not true. And of course, when I'm talking about the big three, I'm referring to the Halloween franchise, the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, and of course the Friday the 13th franchise. With the Friday films, yes, we have our main serial killer stalking unsuspecting victims at whatever quote-unquote hunting ground he or she happens to be at, which is usually Crystal Lake or the surrounding area. But the stories that are weaved throughout each subsequent film are very different from one another. Is there a formula? Yes, to an extent. However, the same can be said about the Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street franchises as well. Different stories woven in and out of the killing spree, featuring that series' slasher icon, whether that's Jason, Michael, or Freddy. To say these films are all the same seems pretty unfair to me, and it seems especially unfair to put the Friday the 13th films in that box and then attempt to say that the other two are any different. Body counts aside, every chapter in all three of these franchises is very different from one another, story-wise. I encourage you to watch these films again and focus on their respective stories versus just seeing a guy in a mask killing people, or a guy in a hockey mask killing people, or a guy with a burned face and razor gloves killing people. Those are the draws of their respective franchises. But the stories based in and around those killings are the electricity that keeps those franchises vibrant in the minds of us fellow horror fans, regardless of how many years it's been since the last entry of whatever franchise you want to talk about. For example, the Friday the 13th franchise. The first film starts with Jason's mother getting revenge for his supposed death. Part 2 brings Jason himself to the forefront, avenging the death of his mother, who thought he was dead all those years when in fact he had been surviving in the woods all those years. With Part 3, we have a backstory of a character who encountered Jason several decades prior. Then we see him get his hockey mask. Part 4 leads us to Jason's actual death. Part 5 introduces a copycat killer storyline. Part 6 sees his resurrection. Part 7 brings a new foe to face off against supernatural Jason. Part 8 sees Jason go to Manhattan. Part 9 deals with Jason body jumping and the mythos behind his evil, if you consider that canon. Jason X goes to space. In Freddy vs. Jason, he battles Freddy, with quite a bit of storyline behind that film. You see where I'm going with this? I know I just touched on the surface of those storylines from all those Friday the 13th entries, but the movies are not the same. Yes, there's a guy walking around killing people, but there are different stories at play there. Let's be honest, if they were making the same movies over and over, the second movie in all of these franchises would have been a failure right from the start. None of these franchises would have had legs. And look at the Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street franchises. Those are filled with rich, deep storylines. The Halloween franchise has become a choose-your-own-adventure storyline that is just batshit insane with all kinds of avenues and timeline skews to choose from, whereas the Freddy Krueger movies have always had really rich, different storylines for each subsequent sequel. So yeah, I think I'm just sick of hearing the argument of, all these slasher movies are the same, every sequel is the same. They're not. The basic structure may be very similar with each entry, but the films are not Xeroxes of the previous films. They're just not. And if you can't see that, then I don't know what to tell you.